And now, CCW News presents Holy Crap, This Is Actually Happening! Ghosts Are the Machine Edition, October 2022. I'm Chuck U. Farley. Now that the racist, sexist hurricane is finished up in Florida, Vice President Harris, who won't be returning to the state because it's too close to the wide-open border she also won't visit, declared that she'll work overtime to ensure that white victims are last in line for any emergency funding. Democrat-funded fact-checkers were quick to point out that her saying we need to pay attention to equity, because those who are not white are always the hardest hit by sexist, racist hurricanes, in no way means that she said funding would be doled out based on skin tone, even though that's word for word what she said. In a pandering move worse than Hillary's hot sauce, Emmanuel's Amen and a Woman, or Kamala smoking dope while listening to Tupac's debut as a toddler, the great uniter flew out to Puerto Rico in the wake of Hurricane Fiona so he could wantonly parade his racism by telling wholly made-up stories about being an honorary Puerto Rican because he grew up surrounded by them. In Delaware, where about 1/3 of 1% of the population were from Puerto Rico at that time. Of course he felt surrounded. White Democrats, of course, found the pretending charming, which is about what you would expect from a party whose most popular leaders include a rich white lady who pretends she's a Cherokee, a rich white guy who pretends he's a Mexican teenager, and a filthy rich white mob daughter who pretends she's sober. Since we are talking about racist, sexist storm damage, UC Berkeley, once known for its radical defense of free speech, has done such a 180 that even the most murderous dictators would roll their eyes. This week, 9 different student groups at Berkeley's School of Law have amended their bylaws to ensure that they will never allow any speakers that support Israel or Zionism in an effort to protect their Palestinian students. I swear, I am not making this up. These Jew-free zones come on the heels of an incident when protesters locked a gay, Jewish speaker in a building they then set on fire, and an off-campus whites-free dorm where residents and guests must sign in by declaring their race, and anyone who wants to bring a white person home must get permission and then warn the residents of the approaching threat with the understanding that light-skinned people are not allowed in any of the common areas. Ever. Even if they're mixed race and actually live there. Much worshipped, never practicing Dr. Fauci, the highest paid unelected government official in history, got things wrong nearly 100% of the time during the AIDS pandemic. He then tried to best his record during the COVID pandemic and managed to do so with the full support of Pravda and China. One place he does get things right is in his insider trading. Thanks to his lies, Big Pharma, and most likely a little advice from the Pelosi's, his net worth increased by more than $5 million during his forced lockdowns that bankrupted nearly everyone else. This does not include any kickbacks he got from the CCP for his virus origin cover-ups. The Baron of Backpedal spoke at a hunger event to introduce more legislation that would make more people go hungry. As he mentioned those who worked on the project, he went off script before his handlers could tase him back in line and called out, quote, "Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? Oh, I think she wasn't going to be here." End quote. Of course, Jackie didn't answer because Biden himself had months ago videoed a public statement about how shocked and saddened he was that Representative Jackie Walorski had died in a car accident with several others. In an effort to cover for the dementia patient-in-chief, Karine Jean-Pierre, who is chronically unable to do her single job, stated that Biden called out for the deceased congresswoman because, and I swear I'm not making this up, quote, "she was at the top of his mind." One would think that if you were important enough to rise to the top of someone's brain, being dead would be your number one feature, but as a reporter who pressed the issue by comparing it to thinking of John Lennon but still knowing he's dead, Madam Diversity Hire replied, and I swear I am not making this up, quote, "when you sign a bill for John Lennon as president, then we can have this conversation." While some of us have given up holding our breath waiting for Biden to make good on his campaign promise to cure cancer, Amy Klobuchar has piped in saying that we must vote Democrat because they will end hurricanes. Given their track record, ending violent forces that destroy everything in their paths would be off-brand, but nice try, Amy. Italians, who have faced real fascism firsthand, so are probably sick of it by now, freely and fairly voted in a woman who believes in faith, family, and freedom. And just like that, the lefties openly despise strong, empowered women again. Now that Trevor Noah has crashed The Daily Show James Corbin is slow walking away from his gig, and most other unfunny late-night hosts were sent out to pasture, the fawning leftist talk show terrain looks rather barren. Let's face it, folks, between pandemic pandering, Russian ruses, and having Orange Man bad on a constant loop, the only thing they produced worth laughing at these last 6 years was their ratings. On the topic of dying industries, last week the New York Times published a lengthy love letter about polling software company Conneck and its founder and chief executive, Eugene Yu, who has personally suffered because of the crazy right-wing organization True the Vote, alleging that Conneck's software is easily hackable and the company has secret ties to the Chinese Communist Party and had given the Chinese government backdoor access to personal data about 2 million poll workers in the United States. The author was quick to point out that the election-denying conspiracy theorists used threadbare or no evidence at all when they reported their findings to the FBI. Literally the next day, the Times had to publish a story about the Los Angeles Police Department arresting Eugene Yu on charges that he had secret ties to the Chinese Communist Party and had given the Chinese government backdoor access to personal data about 2 million poll workers in the United States. Instead of returning to domestic production, which would not only save the planet but save the economy, Biden has chosen to sell off all of the U.S. emergency oil reserves, beg Saudi Arabia for their dirty oil, and buy Russian oil at much higher prices once it has been laundered through India and China. Meanwhile, despite his friendly fist bumps with fellow fascists, OPEC is laughing in his face as it decreases production. Last Friday, Vladimir Putin flat out said that he's ready to use nuclear weapons because the U.S. set the precedent when they bombed Japan in World War II. The great peacekeeper Biden cooled things down by blowing up Putin's pipelines, sending another several billion taxpayer dollars to arm Ukraine, and threatening to enter a hot war if Putin so much as takes an inch of NATO land. Meanwhile, reports are coming in of trains carrying, or not carrying, Schrodinger's nukes to the Ukrainian border. Zelensky applied to become part of NATO, North Korea is launching rockets over Japan, and the U.S. government just purchased $290 million worth of radiation sickness drugs. But hey, no mean tweets, am I right? For CCW News, this has been Holy Crap, this is actually happening. I'm Chuck U. Farley. Good night, and may God help us.